Gray divorce is a term that's recently popped up to refer to people getting divorced at an older age. They usually involve couples who've spent years saving a sizable nest egg, raising a family, and building a life together, and now, for whatever reason, they've decided to separate. I'm Jenny Bradley, owner of Triangle Smart Divorce in Cary, North Carolina. While overall we've seen divorce rates decline over the last few decades, the rate of baby boomers divorcing has almost doubled. There are all kinds of explanations out there for why this is happening. You were waiting until the kids were on their own, saving up money, waiting until you were done working, or just the fact that after going through life together, you've decided you'd like to do things differently. Hey, no judgment zone here. Whatever your reason is, gray divorce has unique factors to consider and plan for. So what's different about getting divorced in the second half of life? Since these cases normally don't involve child custody, we'll start with the second most important thing for most people: money. Assets, debts, and property are all going to be divided according to North Carolina state law, which is equitable distribution. Division will depend on a number of factors, and what is fair might not necessarily be equal. Couples who have been married for decades have often built a large and complicated marital estate which now has to be untangled. Not only do you have joint bank accounts and credit cards, but as you go through life, it's pretty common to accumulate a significant amount of things. There's just more stuff to divide. Cars, houses, land, retirement, investment accounts, furniture, the list goes on. In gray divorce, we often see that there's one spouse who worked in the home but took a lower paying or part-time job to take care of the kids and the home. You need to take into consideration that finding adequate full-time employment will be harder for this spouse, not only because they're absent from the workforce, but also finding employment can be harder at an older age with little to no work experience. It's not uncommon for the unemployed spouse to seek more of the property, since the other spouse has the ability to make more money. Since people are so close to retirement or even in retirement when they're part of a gray divorce, the smartest thing you can do is make sure you're working with a lawyer who understands both your property and cash flow concerns and how they're interrelated. And a specific type of asset that's very important to gray divorcees are retirement accounts, including pensions. We have a whole other video just on this topic where we go over the main retirement accounts and how they're divided during divorce. But just know this: any money you put into these accounts during the marriage is going to be considered marital property. How you manage the accounts could make the money you put in before the marriage marital property as well. The minute you know you're separating and heading for a divorce, you need to find a lawyer to help you start dividing your retirement accounts, sometimes even before the divorce is finalized. And this is especially true if you're already drawing from these accounts. And now on to another income source in retirement: Social Security. Here's the simple part. If you're claiming Social Security on your own record and get divorced, nothing changes. It's easy. If you're claiming on your soon-to-be ex-spouse's record, it gets a little more complicated. But basically it boils down to this: if you remarry, you can no longer claim on your ex-spouse's record. There's a whole bunch of other rules and exceptions, but just know Social Security is something you need to think about before the divorce is finalized, not after. Any decision you make could dramatically influence the amount you receive over your lifetime. Now let's move away from money and on to health insurance. If you're already on Medicare, which can start at age 65, and go through a divorce, there isn't much you have to worry about. Divorce doesn't change anything. If you're under age 65 and on your spouse's insurance through work, it gets a little tricky. Once a divorce is final, you cannot remain on your ex-spouse's health insurance. You can remain on it during separation, but you need a really good separation agreement in place or a really considerate spouse. If your spouse isn't so nice, there are many ways to get health insurance coverage if you get separated before you're eligible for Medicare. But just like everything else, it's something you need to be thinking about during the separation and divorce process, and not an afterthought. We're only hitting the very top of what you must consider when going through a divorce in your gray years. There are other issues such as life insurance, long-term care, possible college expenses for kids, and estate planning you must make sure are included in your divorce. A financial planner and an estate planning attorney are typically going to be a lot more involved in a great divorce. I know it seems like we just talked a lot about how complicated it is to get divorced if you're older, but trust me when I say this. It's almost always worth it versus staying stuck in a relationship that doesn't work anymore. Our clients close to or in retirement who come to see us are strong, know what they want, and are ready to forge their own path. We're happy to be a part of that journey. Call us if you're ready or just if you need help figuring out where to start. We're here.